Good morning. My name is Ada Dightman, and I am your MC this morning. Well, one of two of your MCs. Welcome, everybody, to Creative Mornings. If this is your first time, be sure to drop the number 1 in the chat. Creative Mornings is a free lecture series that happens once a month. There are over 200 chapters all over the country, full of creative people just like you and me. Creative Morning isn't just in Atlanta, but around the world as well. This month's theme is resilience. It has been a crazy year, and a lot of us have been resilient, trying to pivot, is that the word that everybody loves to use in 2020? And we are still making it. Today, we are resilient because we are no longer at home in front of our Zoom, but we've created a real cool virtual filming for you guys to watch us. So we are resilient and we are making it. I would like to thank all of our global sponsors, MailChimp. The results are in, and MailChimp's benchmarking report is live. It's the first truly global benchmarking survey for freelancers and agencies. It's designed to help you run a better business through insight, tips, and best practices. There are both a freelancer and an agency version. You can find both of the links in the chat. Also, create videos that connect with Lily Sign on Skillshare. Check out the brand new Skillshares class from YouTube star and late night host Lily Sign to learn the secrets of storytelling on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and beyond. Watch these classes for free today with a special 2-week Skillshare Premium. And finally, we'd like to thank our wonderful video production sponsor, Off the Record, a Latina-owned agency that is the farmer's market of organic content. We're able to stream to you because of the hard work they've put in. You can also find their website in the link as well as their Instagram. Now I have the pleasure of introducing comedian David Perdue, who is an Atlanta-based comedian, writer, actor, podcaster who has performed with Kevin Hart Presents, Heart of the City on Comedy Central, as well as an appearance on Fuse TV, LOL Network, FX, and Circle TV. Welcome, comedian David Perdue.
Hey, that's okay. We're doing it. We're live. We're having it. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for having me here. I want to say this audience of people in front of me is not the normal audience, but you guys look good, and I can say that confidently because I don't know about y'all. I've been out in the streets in the last few years. Everybody should not have come outside, but you guys are come outside people. So congratulations to you guys for making it work during the pandemic. Anyway, I'm very excited to be here doing comedy. They were worried. They were like, hey, can you do comedy sitting down? And I was like, I don't know if you know what's been going on the last year, but everybody has been doing comedy sitting down in the form of Zoom shows. So I'm right at home, kind of, except this is not my computer. This is a camera. But I've been doing Zoom shows, trying to be resilient, if you will, trying to maintain my skills. Zoom shows, I don't know if anybody, I can ask y'all because you're all audience. Does anybody here do Zoom shows at all?
Yeah.
Y'all went to Zoom comedy shows? Bless your hearts. I don't know why people were doing it. It made zero sense to me. I kept doing it because I wanted to, just showcase my skills. I don't know why people would just not continue to watch Netflix. Like you had Netflix, you were in your room watching me when you had a whole Netflix account, Amazon Prime, all these other things. You was like, hey, I'm gonna watch this stranger talk about how his pandemic is going. So bless everybody's heart who decided to go and do that. One of the things though, because I didn't get to interact with people, so one of the things that I was doing while I was at Zoom shows, just asking people, polling questions and stuff like that. And one thing I was asking, and I'll ask y'all too, how, when the pandemic started, like how were we as a group hanging up on people? Does anybody, because like pre-pandemic, if you was on the phone with somebody and you didn't want to talk to them no more, you were like, hey, I got something more important to talk to you right now. And they were like, oh, okay, cool, go live your life, go be more important. But like now, I would be like, hey, I got to do something else. And they'd be like, no, you don't. And so that was very unfortunate because what ended up happening was people who used to be 5-minute phone conversation people in my life ended up being hour-long conversation people in my life. And that's like never who they was meant to be in my life. And so that was just unfortunate. Like that was one of the unfortunate things of quarantine. I remember I asked the audience one time during the Zoom show, hey, how are we hanging up on people? And one brave audience member unmuted himself, which is already a thing, the weird thing, but he unmuted himself to yell at me, tell your friend you got COVID real quick. And that was honestly one of the saddest things I ever heard in my life. This man wanted me to be on the phone with my friend and be like, hey, I got to hang up real quick. I just now, while talking to you, got COVID. And he thought that would be enough to get me off the phone. And I wept for that human being because that just let me know he got terrible friends. Like even my worst friend, right? My worst friend in the world. I know exactly who my worst friend is. And as soon as everybody knows their worst friend. But even my worst friend, if I was like, hey, I done contracted some immediate case of COVID, they would at least go, hey dog, you need some soup or something? Like they're not just gonna hang up and like, all right, bye, have a good life. Like they're gonna be concerned about me. So this dude was in trouble. I will say another thing too, I learned during the midst of all of this, I loved watching people on Instagram. My favorite thing was to watch my friends in New York and LA get prepared. You know, everybody was getting prepared in case like things went down. So they was like making gardens, but I think they forgot where they lived at. Like they was living in New York and LA, like, hey, we got to get prepared. And then like I would watch their Instagram stories, and then like 6 weeks later they would have like an arugula leaf and 6 peppers. And I'm like, hey, you're gonna die. You better go to Walmart like the rest of us and stay 6 feet apart from people. That's not gonna work out. That's not even a decent salad you working with right now. That's not gonna work out well for you. Another thing I just want to say, like I'm vaccinated. I'm out here. I'm feeling good about the vaccination because why not? I will say this though, there were certain things I think we need to keep post all of this. First off, let's talk about resilience. I want to congratulate all these pizza companies who during the pandemic was like, hey, we now got contactless delivery. We got contactless delivery to deliver our pizzas to you. And I thought that was weird because I'm sitting here and thinking like, dad, y'all was just touching my pizzas this whole time. Like this is new information. Y'all just started not touching my pizzas. I would think we need to bring that into the post-pandemic life. Another thing I would like to bring post-pandemic, I don't know about y'all, how many of y'all, I currently own I would like to call my Nike sweatpants drawer. I have a Nike sweatpants drawer. And like, honestly, like I'm currently wearing joggers, and this was a compromise. I don't know, because I like these people behind the camera enough to put on what I consider a little bit better sweatpants. But after this, I'm putting on sweatpants. Like I'm not living this not sweatpants life no more. I love sweatpants so much, and there's another thing I love. I loved, like the pandemic brought me, I went to 3 different weddings in Nike sweatpants. I'm not going back, right? Like if you're my friend and you about to get married, if that marriage invitation don't come with a Zoom link, you not my friend. Like I'm not doing that no more. Like now I didn't know I was so free. I went to 3 different weddings in Nike sweatpants. It was an amazing accomplishment for me. So I'm not messing around with that. I got into my favorite. I don't know. Like I started. I don't know if I should. I feel like we're all friendly here. I'm looking at the camera, not looking at the camera, but I feel like we're friendly here. Can somebody tell? We all had like a bad, we had like a bad quarantine purchase.
Yes.
Does anybody have because this is what I'm really excited. Like 2 things I feel like it brought us together. Let's be real. Like there was a lot of bad that went down, but a lot of things brought us together. People try to act like we're not connected, we're not a community, but I refuse to believe that because if you remember at the beginning of pandemic, we all, without an email chain or anything, decided, hey, it is banana bread time. Like if that don't let you know that and no one got an email about it, black people was doing what everybody was making banana bread or some kind of bread, and didn't nobody get an email chain about it. So you can't tell me we're not connected as a human race. So I know that for a fact, right? That is 100% true. But bad quarantine purchases. Anybody want to just yell out what their bad quarantine purchase is? You said what? A Fendi bag? That seemed like a quality purchase. That seemed like that'll be all right later on. I said bad. You trying to make me look bad on camera. No. Bad. All right, so this is true. Like, so my birthday is in February, so that means last year on my birthday, I had a pre-pandemic birthday, which means I was just living my life, pandemic-free, having a good birthday. But this year, I had a pandemic birthday, and I feel like I hit rock bottom on my birthday. If I may, or not rock, it was bad. So here's what happened. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm scrolling on Instagram. And what I see on Instagram is a small child. He probably was like 12, 13-year-old little black kid, little chubby black kid. He had hair just like mine, right? And he looked real similar to me. And I saw this guy. I was like, I mean, this like he could be my son. Like he was the thing that he was doing though at 2:30 in the morning on my Instagram page was he was yo-yoing. He was just yo-yoing. He was doing all these cool yo-yo tricks. And I was like, look at my son out here living his best life. Yo-yoing, like I was proud. I don't even know this kid, but I was proud of him. He was yo-yoing. At the end of his video, he held up the yo-yo and he was like, hey y'all, look, this is my own personal yo-yo. Go out and buy it. And I was just like, well, the least I can do is purchase a yo-yo. I ain't been in his life for the last 12 years. The least I can do is buy this yo-yo for this young man. So I bought a yo-yo from this 12-year-old black kid in somewhere in Tennessee, right? And you're like, dang, that's a low moment. This grown man of 34 years old bought a yo-yo. That's not the low moment. The low moment is a week later when I get the yo-yo, I unbox it. I was very excited, and I throw the yo-yo down. And y'all know how yo-yos work, right? You throw yo-yo down, and you do your job by throwing it down. But then the yo-yo is supposed to do its job and come back up, right? The yo-yo did not come back up. No matter how much I yanked at the yo-yo, it refused to come back up. And I'll be honest, I was upset. I was like, son, I know I raised you better than this to put out this faulty equipment. Like, I was upset. So much so that a week later at 2:30 in the morning, I'm messaging the 12-year-old child, hey, you've sold me a defunct yo-yo. And that, you would think, was the low moment. Wrong. I got so upset, but because I was so invested in the yo-yo game that I went out and purchased a second yo-yo. Did y'all hear what I said? I'm now a 34-year-old man, single man, in possession of 2 yo-yos. And I'm out here trying to get betrothed, married, and I got to present myself with a 2 yo-yo man. Like, this is not good. This is a low moment in the quarantine. All I'm saying is, right, is that, like, I can't wait till we start sharing these stories, because I can't be the only one that had, like, a low moment during quarantine where I'm just out here yelling at a 12-year-old kid that he's selling bad yo. Come to find out, the yo-yo worked perfectly fine. It was a professional yo-yo. And when I bought it, I thought professional just meant for adults. No, it means like it's designed to stay down. Like, it's not supposed to come back up. So I'm pretty sure this kid is coming to his dad or his stepdad. I don't know. We'll see. And he's just like, look, this grown man is yelling at me about my yo-yo. So, I mean, I just want to share that moment because I feel like if we don't share our bottoms, you know what I'm saying? If we don't share like our worst moments, like, how are we going to grow together? We was making banana bread together as a society. So the least we could do is share our low moments. Anyway, I'm not familiar with how much more time I have. I feel, no, it's okay. Listen, everybody's getting nervous behind the camera. This is fine. I want, like, because people have been like nervous. Y'all don't see, but they're nervous, but things are good. Things are still well. I think that's it. Is that my time?
I think that's great.
Does that feel good? If that feels good to you, I appreciate you guys for having me. Again, thank y'all for coming here in my cool uncle's garage and watching comedy.
David, thank you. I hope y'all got some joy this morning because we needed that joy. Thank you so much, David, for joining us. I'm going to tell the people, y'all can look in the links in your YouTube chat and you can go to there and guess what's there? Links to David's website. Links to his Instagram. Now that things are opening up just a little, you might could take yourself to a little comedy show, take yourself, your mask, whatever you want to do there. So David, thank you so much for sharing with us. We appreciate that. We want to get some more thank yous going. And our first thank you to our first local sponsor is to Indie Studios, which is where we are right now. You can go to our social media, go to our Instagram, and you'll be able to see some behind the scenes, but you are just seeing a small fraction of a very beautiful space. And we want to give a big thank you to Gene Kansas Commercial Real Estate. Gene Kansas Commercial Real Estate is the developer that put Indy together. You may also be familiar with Constellations. Gene Kansas Commercial Real Estate is responsible for Constellations as well. So Indie Studios team is an award-winning, design-focused, culturally based workspace, okay? So you wanna come on over here because there are all sorts of square footage for you. There's a screening room for you. We are right now in the reference library of Indie Studios. So please make sure you visit indiebecomesyou.com. You can check the links in the YouTube chat. You could get 20% off of your next meeting, event, film, or photo shoot rental right here at Indy. So make sure you do it. Limited time only, folks. Thank you so much to Gene Kansas Commercial Real Estate. We really appreciate it. Also, can y'all let me know in the chat how many of y'all joined our gather round time that we had together this morning? We want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Gather Round, helping us to find some ways to mingle. Those of you that remember what Creative Mornings Atlanta was like in the before times, right? Remember how you'd get to the event and it'd be like 8 o'clock and you would get your donut or your biscuit or whatever and go mingle with some people. Well, we wanted to find a way that you can still do that. So hopefully you got a chance to try Gather Round this month, but if you didn't, we're gonna be doing Gather Round again for the month of June. So make sure you check them out. And you can also find a link in the chat in case you or your company also wanna use Gather Round to create some more fun, intimate ways that we can still mingle and connect virtually, okay? Also, let's talk about next month, okay? We have our field trip announcement next month, And our field trip is going to be on June 10th. It's going to be live streamed at 7:30 on June 10th. It's going to be real talk on creative careers. And don't we need that? Because probably literally all of us that are here on the stream are a part of being in a creative career. So if you want some real talk about that, we want to give a special shout out to Julia, who is our field trip captain for curating this. She's going to be there in conversation with Chris Downs, owner and creative director of Tube, which is an Atlanta post-production boutique. So go to there, June 10th, save the date. Also, next month, last Friday of June, our theme is matriarchy, and we just confirmed our speaker. If you're familiar with the Guild, Nikishka is the founder of the Guild, and Nikishka will be here to tell us all the things about matriarchy next month. So make sure you mark your calendars. Also, it's time for our speaker, and I'm so excited. I'm excited every time we're here. And I just started talking to y'all. I didn't even introduce myself to y'all, but I'm Amena Brown. I'm your chapter organizer here for Creative Mornings Atlanta, and I want to introduce our speaker. And for many of you that may have been tuning into our events, we have different ways that our speakers can come into the space and share. And sometimes they share in more of a TED Talk style, but today we're going to actually be in conversation with our speaker. We have Chef Ron Sue here with us. Chef Ron Sue is not only an Atlanta native, shout out to Old Atlanta in the building, culinary director and partner for Lazy Betty. And if you have not been to Lazy Betty to eat this food, do it, because I want our whole team to go over there, okay? So I want to talk with Ron today, and I want to talk about all the things with Ron. So I want y'all to put y'all applause in the YouTube chat for Chef Ron Sue.
Let's hear it, guys. Come on. Thank you for having me.
I know it's interesting for us being in the live stream, because we have sort of like a little bit of an audience here, like the crew of us, but I think we're all used to, like, when you're filming, it's like, do I talk? Do I laugh? So, so thank you for getting our applause going, Ron.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm talking to you about resilience today, which is something that I know you know a lot about, not only in your personal life, but also in your professional life as well. So I just want to start with, what are some life experiences, some things in your upbringing that you can say have brought the lessons of resilience to you?
I would say the biggest influence I've had in my life is the impression left upon me with my late mother. She moved here from Taiwan in her early 20s with $20 in her pocket, barely speaking any English, and managed to, in her prime, or career-wise, had 7 restaurants, all scattered around the Southeast. So just that story, it's kind of like the American dream, and knowing what my mom had to go through. I was a restaurant baby, so I would come in to the restaurant all the time. At a very young age, like we didn't have a lot of options for healthcare growing up when my mom was working. So she actually finagled a deal with the local school system to have the bus drop me off at her restaurant. So the deal was, she would, when my geography class got to China, she would give the whole class Chinese food for lunch.
Wow.
So that ingenuity.
Oh, ingenuity.
Yes,
yeah.
ingenuity.
Yeah.
Yes. It showed me a lot of resilience, but just her overall never giving up attitude. But just being brought up in the restaurant and seeing my mom work day to day, the sweat she put in. There was a lot of racism going on. Her having to adjust to a new society. Just everything she did was the single most factor in me learning about resiliency.
Yeah, so. And I love hearing this story about your mom, and it's amazing how our families, our upbringing, the people that we see sort of modeling for us resilience, that really impacts how we respond to life when other things come up for us that make us have to learn how we can be resilient in that moment. So I want to ask you about this, Ron. People of color in general, globally, but in particular in America, have had to always have resilience, right? To make it here, to survive here, right? And so we have been in a year and a half now of a combination of a lot of things that have affected people of color. Combination of being in the pandemic, combination of also being in the middle of a global uprising still today, right? Also a combination of there being a lot of acts of racism, right? And in particular here in our city, having experienced a violent act of racism that was against Asian Americans here in our city in particular.
Right.
Can you speak to how Atlanta's API community has had to show resilience during this time?
Yeah, I think, they've demonstrated it on a lot of different levels. They've done it from a grassroots level. I think with the recent Senate runoffs, I believe the Asian American segment in Georgia played a huge part in swinging those votes. So you see it on that level. In terms of me being a restaurant owner, I've had a lot of Asian interest organizations collaborate with our restaurant group, my siblings' restaurants, which shout out to my brother and sister Howard and Anita, who runs Sweet Auburn. But we've collaborated with a lot of other Asian-owned businesses to either hold food sales or food giveaways that end up donating the proceeds to these groups. And just reaching out to other segments of the population and just banding together and showing support. Because it's all sorts of people getting beat up out there. So it's done on so many different levels.
Can you talk about resilience in the restaurant and food industry in general? Because I think going into the pandemic, there was sort of a life that, I'm speaking from the consumer place, right? There's a life before
Right.
the pandemic where, it's your birthday, you're gonna go to this restaurant and sit down there and eat food together. There was so much about being at restaurants like yours that was a part of our life and how we celebrate, how we relax, and then to go from that to many restaurant owners like yourself having to decide, well, how do we do this safely? Talk about what are the things you've learned about resilience having started a restaurant and having kept a restaurant going during the pandemic?
That's a great question because being a restaurant owner or operator, I've had to manage resilience in a lot of ways. When we first reopened for the pandemic, we actually had one of our VIP regulars come in and eat, and it was their first time coming in and eating. And so we agreed to let them in the restaurant a little earlier, and it was like a party bait birthday, and they were having a good time letting loose. It was the first time anyone has dined out in a very long time. And they were drinking some champagne, some cocktails, like living it up. And then we had another table very close by that was, I guess, didn't like how loud they were, and and we kind of had to play a little, policing and just been like, let's move this table. And it was two different races, and there was a potential for conflict.
Wow.
So in terms of me having to manage, or me and my staff and my team having to manage that was one scenario that we never had to really experience until after the pandemic and all this social uprising has been happening. So we kind of mitigated the conflict and just realized people have different points of view on how people should dine in the ambiance. So, people come to Lazy Betty and they think, oh, we are at a certain price point, or there's the way people should be dressed. But we pride on ourselves to just let people be. It doesn't matter how you dress, what walk of life you come in. If you're making a lot of money, or you're saving up all year to come eat at Lazy Betty, you're all welcome here. And there's no point in casting your judgment, even on something like your etiquette at a restaurant. So that's one way. Another way, so that's like my role as a restaurant owner. Another way I like to kind of show my resilience is, me and my staff's cooking styles, we try to bring different cultures of the world together on a plate. And we take what we like, and we like to accentuate what we like about different, if it's French, Italian, Chinese, American food, and we highlight those, and we try to create harmony on a plate. And we hope, and we cook to try to hit a different note, not just feeding your stomach, but also feeding your mind, right? And so we hope that kind of translates. And that's kind of a mantra, right? We try to break down these barriers between social lines, not just with our food, but the way we treat our guests. So that's another way that we try to mitigate all these slights.
Yeah. I love that. I want to remind everybody in the YouTube chat that if you have questions you want to ask Chef Ron, please put them in the chat now, and I'll try to see how many questions we get in, but I've got a couple more for you before we open it up. But just a reminder there. Okay, can you talk about the resilient spirit it takes to found a restaurant? Because I think those of us who are maybe not in the food industry, you know, we just get excited about it when we see, you know, a chef like yourself, you know, we maybe have followed your career and see like, oh, Lazy
Right.
Betty's opening. We just get excited about it. We're ready to go sit down, you know. I am one of those people that watches shows. I mean, you may hate this, Chef Ron, but I am one of those people that watches shows like Top Chef, right? And those of you that may watch Top Chef.
You're one of those people.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
am
God.
one of those people, Chef Ron. I'm so sorry.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
And so in Top Chef, they have an episode that they call Restaurant Wars,
Right.
where they're sort of doing this microcosm of what it could be like to start a restaurant. So for people like me, we're watching that, and that's just a little small view of what it could be, and it's hard for them
Right.
to try to pull off that little small microcosm in 24 to 48 hours, however long they have. What are the lessons you would say you learned of how you had to be resilient founding a restaurant? Because it's not an easy thing.
Oh yeah, so you know, a lot of my training came from the kitchen, and when I decided to move back home to Atlanta and open a restaurant, my role kind of changed from being a chef that was cooking a lot. Instead of holding a knife every day, I was holding a pen or a laptop. And I had to give myself a crash course in building Excel sheets, writing business plans, pro formas. And it was tough, you know, and up until then, I would say working at Le Bernardin as a chef or a line cook was probably the hardest thing. You're talking 75-hour work weeks every week, cooking a very high stress environment, getting criticized for like the smallest detail. So then transitioning to opening the restaurant was a different type of resilience. I was learning everything from the ground up. But at the end of the day, you know, what keeps you going is a dream, a vision. And I think it's important that when you hit those roadblocks, those obstacles, you gotta stay on the end game, right? Keep that in mind and use that as your motivation to kind of keep pushing through. Whenever someone throws you an obstacle, the thing that in your mind should be like, all right, what do I need to do to overcome that obstacle? If you focus on the obstacle, then it's gonna become an obstacle instead of something that just makes you stronger and keeps you going.
Yeah.
So.
I want to close with this question, even in light of what you're sharing about what the journey really is. I think a lot of people that may not be in a particular industry just look at it like, oh, that thing just popped up there and, you know,
Right.
that happened easily. But when it's your industry, you know, behind the scenes, there's a lot of hard work that
Right.
goes into that, a lot of perseverance as well, right? I want to ask you to give advice to our creative community here, because we have a lot of folks that have been through some hard times. You know, their industry is in fluctuation, right? We're having to figure out ways to pivot and do business differently than we were doing it before. What would you say are ways that you would give advice to someone to cultivate resiliency, or what are ways that you help yourself also to be able to remain resilient even in the face of hard times?
I think my biggest advice for the creatives would be to, you know, figuring out the why. Why do you do what you're doing? Are you doing it for money? Are you doing it to, you know, as a way to express yourself? Or is the end game to make the world a better place? And whatever your decision is, make sure that the choices you make along that journey reflect that end game, and that it will get you closer to reaching that end game. And don't focus on the obstacles, like I said. If you focus on the negative, it's just gonna beat you down. You know, focus on what it takes to just stand back up one more time after you get knocked down.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you fail a lot, all you gotta do is succeed one more time to make it. And everyone's gonna fail. Like I think the most successful people have also failed the most. And if you keep that in mind and make failure part of the journey, then you'll get to success and you'll make it. So.
Yeah, I love that one step at a time approach, really, that you said just now, because I think for a lot of us, and y'all can tell me in the chat if it's true for you, but I think for a lot of us, we're wanting to succeed so badly that we're almost thinking sometimes 7-10 steps ahead of what we
Right.
hope our career becomes, what we hope our business does, you
Right.
know?
Yep.
And when we really stop and go, how can I just make it from this step to the next one to the next one? And then sometimes you look back and realize how much you've grown,
Right.
how much you've progressed, how much you've learned, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm.
Love that, Chef Ron.
Thank you.
We're gonna open it up for questions, people. Thank you, Chef Ron, for sharing with us so far. I wanna open up for some questions. I think I'm supposed to be getting those via text, and I hope my text is working. Hi. In the meanwhile, while we're waiting for that, I feel like we can't have you here without talking more about food for a second here.
Sure.
Okay, so can I just ask you if you feel comfortable telling us, do you have restaurants that when you're not at your restaurant, that you're like, that's a place in Atlanta I like to go and eat food? What are the vibes, Chef Ron?
Yeah, there's definitely restaurants like that. For me, it really depends on the occasion too. But if you're talking just casual neighborhood spots, I really like Amano, which is they do good Italian food right around the corner. Like my sibling spots, Sweet Auburn Barbecue is really dope. Kimba House is good if you want a cocktail, solid food. I love the scene going on over in Summerhill with Talat Market and Little Bear. Both of those guys are killing it right now. So for me, those are for casual spots. And if you're looking to do it up, I think Joey Ward over at Southern Belle and Georgia Board are doing it too. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I feel so fancy getting these recommendations
Yeah.
from you, Chef Ron.
Yeah.
And I love that about our food scene in Atlanta too. I love that, like whenever people ask me, like, they're coming to visit, what can they do? I 9 times out of 10 have mostly food recommendations to tell them,
me too.
because
Yeah.
I feel like we have the gamut, like, what you said. We have like some hole in the wall spots that have amazing food. And then we have like, you could go there, dress up, do your fancy occasion, really invest in some money to have a food experience as well, right? Love that. Okay, let's see if we can get some questions that the people have for you. Okay, the people want to know, do you miss being in the kitchen? And I guess I should bring up there, do you still spend time in the kitchen at your restaurant, or is it less time in the kitchen? And if so, do you miss that?
I definitely spend the least amount of time in the kitchen at this point in my career than I ever have. And I do miss it. I mean, it's funny, like, I think my staff, they do a great job. I think I have the best team in Atlanta, hands down. Shout out to Aaron, my partner too, and Austin and Carolise, my other managers, and Carl, our GM, but they do a great job. But whenever I get that itch, it's easy for me just to put my pen down or my laptop down and go get my hands dirty. And I'm also a father. I have a 2.5-year-old at home.
Wow.
And so, I'm lucky enough that because I'm a business owner, I can dictate my schedule. I get to go home and cook a lot for my family. So I make up for it at home too, with me not being in the kitchen so much at work.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, the people also want to know, Chef, how much attention do you pay to diet trends when you create a menu? For example, things like the keto diet or paleo or things that we find sort of becoming trendy this way. How much attention do you pay to that when you're making a menu? Do you pay any attention to it at all?
Well, it's funny you asked that question. It's a great question, by the way. My wife, who's very big on eating healthy, her name is Jackie, beautiful lady. I love you, by the way, if you're watching. She's very knowledgeable, very smart, and always keeps me up to date. And one trend, and we definitely keep on top of those trends. Like, we pride ourselves at the restaurant on offering a vegetarian menu, keto diet, like you said, non-gluten, or celiacs. So yes, we do. And it's important as a chef, at the end of the day, we're offering a service, and it's important that you don't get caught up in what you like to eat, and you're cooking for people. So you have to be aware of what people want and facilitate that.
Oh, that's a good point. The people also want to know, what is the hardest part about developing a recipe or a menu item? What's the hardest part about that?
I think the hardest part of any job is the people factor, dealing with different personalities and opinions. I mean, if you're a good chef, you can make a good plate of food. It's just a matter of what's your vision and what are you trying to say. At Lazy Betty, we have basically a few questions that we ask whenever we conceptualize a dish. And one is it better than the dish we're replacing it with? Second is it answering the question or basically, is it answering the question that we want it to answer? Or is it making the statement that you want it to say? Third is guest feedback. At the end of the day, I love hamburgers and pizza, but I'm not gonna put that on the menu at Lazy Betty, right? People will be like, why are you charging me $100 for a slice of pizza? Wouldn't make sense. So it's also guest feedback. And the fourth thing is, what makes this a Lazy Betty dish? What makes this our dish? People people are imitating other people all over the world, but why are people going to come to Lazy Betty to have this preparation? And if we answer those 4 questions, then we usually put it on the menu. So.
All this process is making me it's very fascinating, Chef Ron. Okay, the people want to know, is there a cookbook in the works from you, Chef Ron?
Maybe. There is something going on. In the talks about it, kind of doing the book proposal now and been drafting that. And my beautiful wife, who I've mentioned, Jackie, is also helping me do that. She's been basically editing. She just lets me write, and then she goes back and takes what I write and formulates it into an outline and all that. So something's on the horizon, just not sure when it's going to come out or the actual, what it's going to be about yet.
So we can keep our eyes open for that.
Yeah, you can have me back on Creative Mornings when it comes back out.
Okay, we love to see that. Yes. Okay, what is your favorite thing to make at a dinner party?
I guess it depends on who I'm cooking for and how many people. But if it's casual and it's like a family style gathering, I always like going down to Asian food because, Asian food is very communal at its heart. So it's less clean up, easy, and it just invokes a camaraderie and a conviviality. So if it's that kind of social gathering where like you're with your homies and you're at a dinner table, something like that. If it's more like standing room, finger foods are cool too. So it really kind of depends on the occasion.
I love that. The people also want to know, when hiring someone, what's a tell that someone has good enough resilience to work in the food industry?
Oh, that's a great question. I yell at them and see how they respond. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. Resiliency is hard to gauge right off the rip. For me, whenever I hire somebody, I always look at their soft skills. Things like, were they punctual? How do they carry themselves? Usually with a chef job, it comes with a stage, which is basically like an audition in the kitchen, like a working audition.
Okay.
And you can task some things with like knife work. A lot of restaurants like to have someone cook eggs because eggs are very finicky. To achieve a certain type of egg takes a lot of skill. But for me, I think those hard skills are easy to teach. You can teach someone how to sear a steak to medium rare, but you can't teach someone to be like responsible, organized, clean. So those are things that I really look for. But in terms of resiliency, I think if you have the balls to work in the kitchen, you're probably pretty resilient because it's slow pay. You really have to be passionate about cooking to really succeed and thrive in the industry. And if you're not resilient, the job will it'll weed you out either way. So
yeah, great point. Okay, the people want to know, do you encourage your team to have creative license, even if it is to a certain extent within the brand? Do you allow creative license on your team? It's a great question.
Yeah, the creative process at Lazy Betty in terms of recipes and direction of the restaurant, it's very collaborative. Whenever I truly believe, also with my chef partner Aaron, we truly believe that the best dishes that come onto our taste menu are collaborative effort where we're getting different opinions. There's a lot of pushing and pulling, and because of that, we give people the freedom to just, if any of my chefs want to come in early and mess around in the kitchen, like, yeah, go for it. Like, bring something to the table. I'm a big proponent of not shutting an idea down. Even if I think it's stupid, I'm like, I may not say it, but I'm like, try it. Like, I could be wrong, and I probably am wrong, or I may not understand your vision, but put it onto paper or put it on a plate, produce it, and try it. And we won't knock it or, until we give it a fair shot. So everyone in my kitchen is welcome to throw things on the table.
Oh, love that. Do you feel like the Atlanta restaurant community is welcoming to new businesses, or do you feel it's competitive or cliquey? Somebody wanted the tea in the food industry this morning, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Could you repeat that question again?
Do you feel like the Atlanta restaurant community is welcoming to new businesses, or do you feel it's competitive / cliquey?
I think it's all three. I'm not gonna lie, like Joy Ward is opening up a restaurant that's similar in price point to Lazy Betty. So I guess you could say we're competitors, but we're very healthy. Like we reach out to him all the time. He comes in and eats. I go to his restaurant. So it is competitive, but we support each other. You know, competition breeds a better product at the end of the day, right? So, and honestly, if you're not good and you know, you're scared of competition, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the long run, right? So competition is good. It's healthy. It's never anything we are like malicious about, like let's go sabotage this restaurant or that restaurant. And I don't know, I wouldn't say it's cliquey. At the end of the day, food is subjective to personal preferences, right? So if you like Chinese food and you want to go eat at Chinese restaurants, I wouldn't say that's cliquey, it's just your personal preference. Also, if you're the type of restaurant that, or the type of diner that likes a very beautiful dining room with a lot of eye candy everywhere, you may just naturally gravitate to those restaurants. So I wouldn't say it's cliquey, it's just people like what they like, so.
Yeah. The people also want to know, will you tell us your funniest, appalling customer story from your early career, but I'll open it up in general in your career.
I can't bash my customers. I love them all. They're all the best. You know, they love me. I love them. You know, there's honestly, I mean, I would say the thing that probably happens the most, that's most appalling to me, if I were gonna bash people, is, you know, we offer a wine pairing at the restaurant, and we're talking 8 to 10 courses, so 8 to 10 glasses of wine. Some people don't know how to handle their alcohol, and so maybe by course 6, you know, they have to go take care of their situation in the bathrooms, and my staff unfortunately has had to like gone in and tidy that situation up. But that's not anything they do. It's, you know, it's just, they just need to know their limits a little bit better. But you know, honestly, like, I think our customers are great. Couldn't say anything too appalling has happened in my career, knock on wood. So.
The other part of that question is, the people want to know, what do you learn about the business from your interactions with customers, or from some of these types of stories that you've had to experience too?
What have I learned from my interaction with customers? I think people are just genuinely happy to be at your restaurant. You know, I think that when you welcome someone into your restaurant, like, I spend more time at the restaurant than I do at home. There's a little gratitude that goes a long ways on both parts. And I think if you offer the right kind of service, then your guests feel like they're your friends, and vice versa. And, you know, and if you can break that barrier down between service and guests, that customers really like that. And I think that's what brings people back. At the end of the day, if you're a good restaurant, you offer good food and good service, if you can make a connection, then your customers really like that, and they'll come back.
Oh, I love that. This also makes me think, whenever you go to restaurants, that y'all need to tip really well, because apparently the teams at restaurants be going through it sometimes. Okay? Tip well. Well, people. Let me see if I missed any questions here from the people. Someone asked, how many restaurants do you have in Atlanta?
Oh, I only have one, but we are working on another concept called Juniper Cafe. Hopefully it'll be open by the end of the summer. It'll be located on the west side of Atlanta. And it's basically a modernized Vietnamese restaurant and bakery and cafe. So
that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more closing question, unless anybody has any final words. This is your time to put it in the chat if y'all have final words. Or you can ask your final words to Chef Ron when you go to the restaurant and tip well. You can ask him then. But I want to ask you, having grown up here in Atlanta, I feel like those of us, I didn't grow up here, but I've lived here over 20 years, and you grew up here. I always like, while we're here talking about creativity in Atlanta, what would you say you love about having grown up here and now having had the opportunity to do something you dreamed of doing in the city where you grew up? How does Atlanta play a role in all that you've been able to accomplish in your life?
I think hands down, what I love about Atlanta is the community and how close-knit it is. Obviously, it's not as big as a market as like New York or Chicago, but it's still a fairly good-sized market. But how tight the restaurant community is, and the social circles you can make, I just love that. Like, you know, you can, if you're gonna put some kind of metric on how far your influence can go in Atlanta, you can throw a rock and hit 50 people, and they'll all be responsive. They'll all be really in tune with what you're trying to do or your message. Whereas in other markets, it's like it's just a speckle in the water, right? And I love that, and people are genuine about it. One thing about hospitality that I love here in Atlanta, anyways, is people say there's this thing called small talk, and in New York, it's more of a, it's just. They don't like small talk. They just cut straight to the chase, right? But in Atlanta, I love it because small talk is what allows you to get to know somebody on a deeper level and to make another connection. And I love that, and that's something that I love about.
Final two questions, maybe final three. How did your restaurant survive the pandemic?
It was a lot of hard work and a lot of grit. As one of the owners and operators, me and my other partner, Aaron, so we kind of balanced what we could do in terms of giving them enough hours. You just have to, show your resiliency, and we came up with different revenue streams. We did takeout for a little while. We started like a membership-based subscription service where, if you're part of our member group, you can get like a cocktail class, free bottle of wine every month, recipes from us and stuff like that. So you got to adapt and make it work. So. Oh, for that question?
Yes. Okay, so let me ask you that one more time so we can get fixing something here, y'all, just a second. But the question, Chef Ron, was how did your restaurant survive the pandemic? And you were giving us a couple of different ways I thought were pretty cool.
Right. We we made sure to take care of our staff. I took a pay cut. My other partner took a pay cut. We tried to distribute the hours to our employees so that they could still survive the pandemic and still have a restaurant to come back to work at once the pandemic subsided. And we also came up with different revenue streams, such as a membership-based program for our guests, where if they sign up, they get maybe a Zoom cocktail class, like on how to make cocktails, a cooking class, recipes from us, hard to find bottles of wine, and we did takeout for a little bit as well. So we had to evolve and kind of go with the flow of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question: when you're just cooking for your family, what's your favorite thing to make?
I don't know. It depends. I don't have a favorite. I think it's just. What I love about cooking for my family is getting my daughter involved, Calliope. She's, by the way, the cutest baby on the planet.
Of course she is.
Yeah. And, she likes to throw salt on things. So I try to have her partake in it, and she puts on her little apron and bosses me around like I'm,
Like you're her sous chef?
Basically, she basically runs the kitchen. So it's just whatever I can do to kind of just get good, healthy food on the table. But really getting my daughter involved is really something I enjoy. So
I love that. Chef Ron, thank you so much for sharing your story here, for being our speaker this month. We appreciate it so much. If y'all want to know more about Lazy Betty, you can see all of the links there in your YouTube chat. You can also see the links to Instagram as well. You should just go get your reservation right now. I don't know why you're waiting on it. Go do it right now. We will see you all next month. I believe it's June 25th, but if it's not, it's the last Friday. Whatever the date of the last Friday is, we will see you all back here for our theme, Matriarchy. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Thanks, Chef
Thank you for having me. All right.